The sleeping giant awakens. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge of her cargo vessel, the Peaceful Dawn, watching the loading docks of Harmony Station through the viewport. The massive space station orbited the human colony world of New Prosperity, where 80,000 souls lived quiet lives growing food and manufacturing goods for the Galactic Federation. Elena had made this run dozens of times over the past 5 years, carrying supplies between human worlds and alien trade partners. The bridge was small and cramped, designed for efficiency rather than comfort. Elena's crew consisted of only 4 people: herself, her pilot Marcus Chen, who doubled as their xenobiologist, engineer Sarah Thompson, and communications officer David Park. They were typical of human space crews: small, resourceful, and focused on getting the job done without causing trouble. "Captain, we've got clearance for departure," David announced from his station. "Harmony Control says weather is clear for the next 6 hours." Elena nodded and settled into her command chair. "Take us out, Marcus. Standard departure pattern." As the Peaceful Dawn pulled away from the station, Elena reflected on how different things were now compared to the stories her grandmother used to tell. 150 years ago, humanity had joined the Galactic Federation as junior members, grateful to be accepted into the community of advanced civilizations. The older races, the Zephyrians with their crystal cities, the Valorians with their energy manipulation technology, and the ancient Keth Mori, who had been traveling space for millennia, had welcomed humans as useful additions to galactic society. Humans were good at growing food, fixing things, and carrying cargo between worlds. They were reliable, peaceful, and caused no problems for anyone. The galaxy appreciated having a species that could handle the less glamorous but necessary work of keeping civilization running. "Elena," Marcus called from the pilot's seat, "I'm picking up some unusual readings from the edge of the system. Might want to take a look at this." Dr. Marcus Chen had been a xenobiologist before joining Elena's crew 3 years ago. His expertise with alien technology and biology had proven invaluable during their trading missions. He was a thin man with graying hair and gentle eyes that missed nothing. Elena moved to stand behind his chair, studying the sensor display. "What am I looking at?" "Multiple contacts dropping out of hyperspace," Marcus replied, his voice troubled. "Big ones. Military configuration." The sensor screen showed a formation of massive ships materializing at the system's edge. Elena counted 12 vessels, each one larger than anything in the human merchant fleet. The sleek, angular designs were unmistakably Zephyrian, the crystal-loving species that controlled 3 major star systems and commanded one of the most advanced militaries in the Federation. "Hail them, David," Elena ordered. "Find out what they want." David's fingers danced over his communications console. After several minutes, he shook his head. "No response, Captain. They're not answering any of our frequencies." Sarah Thompson looked up from her engineering station. Sarah was a quiet woman in her 40s who could make any piece of machinery work twice as long as it should. She had joined the crew 18 months ago, claiming to be tired of working planetside installations. Elena had noticed that Sarah knew an unusual amount about military systems for a civilian engineer. "Those aren't standard Zephyrian exploration ships," Sarah said, studying her tactical display. "Those are battle cruisers, heavy ones." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. In a century and a half of Federation membership, no member species had ever attacked another. There were disputes, certainly, and sometimes tensions ran high during trade negotiations. But actual warfare between civilized species was unthinkable. The Zephyrian fleet began moving toward New Prosperity at combat speed. "David, get me a channel to Harmony Station immediately," Elena ordered. "Emergency frequency." "I've got Station Commander Williams," David reported. The elderly commander's face appeared on the main screen, his expression grim. "Elena, please tell me you're seeing what we're seeing." 12 Zephyrian battlecruisers headed straight for us, Elena confirmed. "Any word from the Federation Council?" "Nothing. We've sent messages to every Federation world and gotten no responses. It's like the communication network has been completely shut down. Williams paused, consulting something off-screen. Elena, I need you to implement Protocol 7 immediately. Elena's blood turned to ice. Protocol 7 was something every human ship captain knew about but hoped never to hear. It was part of their emergency procedures, filed away in secure sections of their computer systems, and never discussed in casual conversation. Sir, are you certain? Elena asked. Dead certain. We've lost contact with 4 other human colonies in the past hour. New Geneva, Port Victoria, and the mining stations at Kepler's Rest. William's voice was steady, but Elena could see the fear in his eyes. Elena, they're not taking prisoners. They're not issuing demands. They're just destroying everything. The communication channel crackled with static, and William's image began to break up. Elena, implement Protocol 7 now. Tell everyone. The transmission cut to nothing. Elena stared at the blank screen for a moment, then turned to her crew. Marcus was pale but alert. David looked confused and frightened. Sarah, surprisingly, looked calm and ready. What's Protocol 7? David asked. Elena walked to her command console and entered a code she had memorized but never used. A new section of the ship's computer came online, systems she had never seen before appearing on her displays. Hidden throughout the ship, mechanical sounds indicated panels sliding away and equipment activating. Sarah, Elena said quietly, I think it's time you told us who you really are. Sarah Thompson stood and straightened her shoulders. When she spoke again, her voice carried an authority that had never been there before. Commander Sarah Thompson, Earth Defense Network, Special Operations Division. I've been assigned to this ship for the past year and a half, waiting for this day. Marcus spun his chair around to stare at her. Earth Defense Network. I've never heard of any Earth Defense Network. That was the point. Sarah replied. She moved to Elena's command console and began entering codes with practiced efficiency. For 150 years, humanity has maintained the fiction that we're nothing more than peaceful farmers and traders. Every human ship, every colony, every space station has had hidden military capabilities and personnel, waiting for the day someone decided to test us. The peaceful dawn shuddered as hidden systems came online. Elena watched in amazement as her simple cargo hauler transformed before her eyes. Weapon ports opened along the hull, armor plating slid into position, and her engines suddenly showed 4 times their previous power output. My God, Marcus whispered, what have we been flying in? A fully operational military vessel disguised as a cargo ship, Sarah explained. Captain Rodriguez, you'll find that you have complete tactical control now. Your ship is armed with enough firepower to take on a Zephyrian battlecruiser. Elena's hands moved over the new controls as if she had been using them her entire life. Information flowed into her mind through neural interfaces she hadn't known existed. Weapons systems, tactical displays, communication networks that connected her to military installations across human space. How is this possible? Elena asked. How could we have hidden this from the Federation for 150 years? Sarah's smile was cold. Because we're very good at hiding things when we need to, and because the other species never bothered to look closely at the harmless humans. Through the tactical display, Elena could see what was happening at New Prosperity. The Zephyrian fleet had reached the planet and begun bombardment. Energy beams lanced down from orbit, vaporizing cities and industrial centers. In space around the world, she counted 37 human ships, cargo haulers, passenger liners, and mining vessels, all broadcasting distress signals. Then, one by one, those ships began to change. Elena watched in fascination as the human merchant fleet revealed its true nature. Cargo ships sprouted weapon arrays and armor plating. Passenger liners deployed fighter squadrons from hidden bays. Mining vessels armed themselves with industrial equipment that had been designed for dual purposes. All human vessels, this is Admiral James Parker aboard the EDS Retribution, came a voice over the military communications channel. Implement full combat protocols. Target priority: Zephyrian Battle Group. Rules of engagement: unrestricted. Alina had never heard of Admiral Parker or the ship Retribution, but she could see it on her tactical display, a massive vessel that had appeared from what looked like empty space near New Prosperity's moon. It was larger than any ship in the Federation, bristling with weapons and accompanied by smaller vessels that moved with military precision. Where did that come from? Marcus asked in amazement. We've had hidden military installations throughout human space for decades, Sarah explained. Bases built inside asteroids, ships constructed in secret shipyards, entire fleets waiting for activation orders. The first exchange of fire between the transformed human fleet and the Zephyrian battle group lit up Alina's sensors. The aliens had expected to find defenseless cargo ships. Instead, they found themselves facing a coordinated military force that fought with tactics and technology they had never seen before. Alina watched as human ships moved in patterns that seemed to anticipate the Zephyrians' every action. They used formation flying that maximized their combined firepower while minimizing their exposure to enemy weapons. Most remarkably, they demonstrated technology that matched or exceeded anything the advanced alien species possessed. How? Alina asked Sarah. How did we develop this level of military capability without anyone noticing? Sarah's expression grew serious. Because we never stopped being what we were before we joined the Federation. We just learned to hide it very well. She activated a historical display on Alina's console. Before humanity joined the galactic community, we spent thousands of years perfecting the art of warfare. We fought conflicts on every continent of Earth, developed weapons that could end all life on our planet, created military strategies that the other species have never encountered. The display showed human military history, from ancient battles with swords and shields to modern conflicts with nuclear weapons and space-based platforms. Alina realized she was looking at a species that had been shaped by constant warfare, that had learned to survive by being better at fighting than anyone else. When we joined the Federation, we made a choice, Sarah continued. We could have conquered half the galaxy if we'd wanted to. Instead, we decided to put our weapons away and try to be peaceful. But we never forgot how to fight, and we never stopped preparing for the day someone would force us to remember. The battle around New Prosperity was turning in humanity's favor. The Zephyrian fleet, despite their technological advantages, was being systematically destroyed by human ships that fought with coordinated precision. Alina realized she was watching the end of 150 years of human restraint. Captain, David called from his station. I'm receiving a priority message from Earth Command. Put it through, Alina ordered. A new face appeared on her screen, an older man with steel gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. This is Admiral James Parker, Earth Defense Network Command. To all human vessels and installations, as of this moment, humanity is at war. The Zephyrian Empire has attacked our colonies without provocation, killing civilians and attempting to destroy our peaceful communities. The Admiral's voice carried across the communication channel to every human ship and base in the galaxy. For 150 years, we have chosen peace over conquest, cooperation over domination. We joined the Galactic Federation as partners, not conquerors. We have honored every treaty, fulfilled every obligation, and caused harm to no one. Alina could see other human ships throughout the system, all listening to the same broadcast. On her tactical display, she counted over 200 vessels that had revealed their true military nature. The Zephyrian Empire believed we were weak because we chose not to show our strength. Admiral Parker continued. They attacked our families, our children, our peaceful communities because they thought we couldn't fight back. They were wrong. The last Zephyrian battlecruiser exploded in a ball of fire and twisted metal. The alien fleet that had come to destroy a defenseless human colony had been completely annihilated in less than 2 hours. Let this serve as notice to every species in the galaxy. Admiral Parker's voice carried a warning that chilled Alina's blood. Humanity chooses peace, But we are not defenseless. We prefer cooperation, but we are not weak. We have hidden our true nature for over a century because we believed in the possibility of a better way. Elena looked at her transformed ship, at her crew who were discovering that their peaceful existence had been built on a foundation of hidden strength. She thought about the 80,000 people who had died on New Prosperity, innocent civilians who had never harmed anyone. But if you force us to war, Admiral Parker concluded, you will discover why we chose peace in the first place. Not because we couldn't fight, but because we were too good at it. The communication ended, leaving Elena and her crew in silence. Around them, the peaceful dawn hummed with military power they had never known existed. In space nearby, the transformed human fleet began forming up for what Elena suspected would be the next phase of a war that the galaxy had never seen coming. What happens now? Marcus asked quietly. Elena looked at the tactical display, showing human military forces throughout the galaxy, hidden installations coming online, secret fleets revealing themselves. She thought about the choice her species had made 150 years ago, to hide their warrior nature and try to be something better. Now, Elena said, the galaxy finds out what humans do when someone threatens our families. The galaxy learns why humans chose peace. 3 days after the Battle of New Prosperity, Admiral James Parker stood in the command center of the EDS Retribution, studying tactical displays that showed the extent of human military activation across the galaxy. What had been carefully hidden for over a century was now revealed in all its terrifying magnificence. Every human colony had transformed overnight. Farming settlements revealed underground military bases. Mining operations displayed weapon manufacturing capabilities. Transport hubs became strategic command centers coordinating fleets that had been invisible just days before. Admiral, called Commander Lisa Hayes from the communications station, we're receiving surrender requests from 17 Zephyrian battle groups across 7 star systems. Admiral Parker was a man who had spent 40 years preparing for this day while hoping it would never come. He had been born into the Earth Defense Network, trained from childhood to command humanity's hidden military forces. For most of his life, he had been nothing more than a background figure, a merchant captain who occasionally visited military installations for routine inspections. Ignore their surrender requests for now, Parker ordered. Continue with Phase 2 operations. Phase 2 was something the Zephyrian Empire had never encountered before. Human forces were not just defending their colonies, they were systematically dismantling the alien empire's ability to wage war. Strike teams that moved like ghosts were infiltrating Zephyrian military installations. Ships that appeared to be simple cargo haulers were destroying enemy supply lines with surgical precision. Captain Elena Rodriguez had become part of this effort. Her ship, the Peaceful Dawn, now led a squadron of 12 vessels that had been hunting Zephyrian patrol fleets for the past 2 days. What she had learned about human military doctrine in that short time had fundamentally changed her understanding of her own species. Target acquired, reported Commander Sarah Thompson from the tactical station. Sarah had fully embraced her role as military officer, and Elena was discovering that the quiet engineer had actually been a decorated special operations commander. Zephyrian supply convoy. 4 vessels, minimal escort. Elena studied the tactical display. The enemy ships were carrying weapons and supplies to Zephyrian forces, attacking the human colony of New Geneva. According to intelligence reports, New Geneva was still holding out, but barely. All ships, implement attack pattern Omega, Elena commanded. It was a formation she had never heard of 3 days ago, but now understood perfectly. Human military doctrine was flowing into her consciousness through neural interfaces that had been dormant her entire adult life. The 12 human ships moved with coordinated precision that would have been impossible without their hidden military training programs. Every human civilian had been receiving subliminal tactical instruction for decades through their entertainment media, educational systems, and even their work assignments. They had been prepared for war without knowing it. Elena watched as her squadron executed a pincer movement that caught the Zephyrian convoy completely off guard. The alien ships tried to flee, but human vessels were suddenly revealing speed capabilities that exceeded anything in the known galaxy. "How are we this fast?" Elena asked Sarah during the brief engagement. "We never showed our real engine specifications to the Federation," Sarah replied while managing the weapon systems. "Everything they know about human capabilities is based on what we wanted them to know." The convoy was destroyed in minutes, with no human casualties. Elena was beginning to understand that this pattern was being repeated throughout human space. Zephyrian forces were being systematically eliminated by opponents who fought with tactics and technology that seemed to anticipate their every move. On the Zephyrian homeworld of Crystal Prime, Supreme Commander Vextar stood before the Emergency Council of the Zephyrian Empire, trying to explain how their magnificent military had been reduced to scattered remnants in less than a week. The humans were supposed to be farmers and merchants, Vextar said, his crystalline features reflecting the light from the council chamber's energy displays. "Our intelligence indicated no significant military capabilities, no advanced weapons, no strategic thinking beyond basic trade negotiations." Elder Council member Zarthon gestured toward the tactical displays, showing the destruction of Zephyrian forces across multiple star systems. "Then explain how they have eliminated 60% of our military capacity in 6 days. Vextar had no answer. The humans were fighting with a level of coordination and strategic thinking that surpassed even the ancient Kethmori. They demonstrated technologies that matched or exceeded Zephyrian capabilities in every category. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to understand Zephyrian tactics better than the Zephyrians themselves. They anticipated our every move," Vextar admitted. "It was as if they had been studying our military doctrine for decades, preparing specific countermeasures for every strategy we employ." What Vextar didn't know was that humans had indeed been studying Zephyrian military doctrine for decades. Every trade negotiation, every diplomatic meeting, every cultural exchange had included human intelligence operatives gathering information about alien military capabilities. The harmless human merchants and diplomats had been conducting the most successful intelligence operation in galactic history. Dr. Marcus Chen, formerly Elena's pilot and xenobiologist, now found himself serving as an intelligence analyst aboard the Retribution. His years of studying alien biology and culture had prepared him for a role he never knew he was meant to fill. "Admiral," Marcus reported to Parker, "we've completed the analysis of Zephyrian military psychology. They're operating under several critical misconceptions about human capabilities and intentions." Admiral Parker reviewed Marcus's report with interest. "Explain." "They believe we're fighting for conquest, like they are," Marcus said. "They don't understand that we're fighting for survival and protection of our civilians. This makes our tactical decisions unpredictable to them because they can't comprehend our actual motivations." Parker nodded. This was exactly what human strategists had anticipated. The Zephyrian Empire, like most galactic civilizations, viewed warfare as a means of expansion and dominance. They fought to acquire resources and territory. The concept of fighting purely for defense and protection was alien to their thinking. More importantly, Marcus continued, they're discovering that their technological advantages aren't as significant as they believed. Human engineering has been following different development paths than the rest of the galaxy, and we've achieved capabilities they didn't know were possible. This was perhaps the most shocking revelation for the galaxy's established powers. For centuries, they had assumed that human technology was primitive because it looked simple and utilitarian. They had failed to understand that human engineers had focused on efficiency, adaptability, and concealment rather than impressive displays of power. Human ships could operate in conditions that would disable more advanced alien vessels. Human weapons were designed for maximum effectiveness with minimum energy requirements. Human communication systems could maintain contact across vast distances without the elaborate relay networks other species required. On the ancient world of Kethmori Prime, the Council of Elders convened an emergency session to discuss the human military revelation. The Kethmori were the oldest spacefaring civilization in the galaxy, with a history spanning millions of years. They had seen the rise and fall of countless species, but nothing quite like what humanity was demonstrating. They have been hiding among us for 150 years, Elder Sothran observed, her ancient voice carrying centuries of wisdom. Not as conquerors or refugees, but as a species choosing to limit their own power. Elder Morthek consulted the historical records. In all our observations of galactic civilizations, we have never encountered a species that possessed this level of military capability and chose not to use it for expansion. The Kethmori had been watching humanity longer than any other species knew. They had observed the transformation of human society, the decision to join the Galactic Federation, and the careful construction of the peaceful facade that had fooled everyone for over a century. They are not fighting for territory or resources, Elder Sothran continued. They are fighting to preserve their chosen way of life. This makes them far more dangerous than any conqueror. Meanwhile, the war continued to evolve in ways that shocked every military analyst in the galaxy. Human forces were not advancing toward Zephyrian territory seeking conquest. Instead, they were methodically eliminating the Zephyrian Empire's ability to project military power while leaving their civilian populations untouched. Captain Alina Rodriguez discovered this firsthand when her squadron encountered a Zephyrian civilian transport convoy fleeing their homeworld. "Captain," reported David Park from Communications, "the lead transport is requesting safe passage. They're carrying refugees, including families with children." Alina studied the sensor readings. The ships were indeed civilian vessels, overcrowded with Zephyrian families fleeing the war zone. They posed no military threat and were actively trying to escape the conflict. "Grant them safe passage," Alina ordered. "Provide escort to the nearest neutral system if they need it." Sarah looked surprised. "Captain, standing orders are to prevent any Zephyrian movements that might support their war effort." "Those aren't soldiers, Sarah. They're families trying to protect their children, just like we're protecting ours." Alina's voice carried the conviction of someone who understood the difference between military necessity and unnecessary cruelty. This pattern repeated throughout human space. Military targets were eliminated with ruthless efficiency, but civilian populations were protected regardless of their species. Human commanders were demonstrating a level of discrimination in warfare that amazed even their allies. The turning point came when Supreme Commander Vextar requested a meeting with Admiral Parker under a flag of truce. The meeting took place in neutral space, aboard a Valorian diplomatic vessel. Vextar's crystalline form seemed dimmed by defeat as he faced Admiral Parker across the negotiating table. "We underestimated your species," he admitted. "We believed you were weak because you appeared peaceful." Admiral Parker studied the alien commander with eyes that had seen the cost of war. "We aren't peaceful because we're weak, Commander. We're peaceful because we know what we're capable of when we're not." "I don't understand." Parker activated a holographic display showing human military history, images of ancient battlefields, weapons that could destroy continents, strategies that had shaped the evolution of an entire species. "My species spent thousands of years perfecting the art of warfare," Parker explained. "We fought conflicts that lasted centuries. We developed weapons that could end all life on our homeworld. We became so efficient at destroying each other that we nearly made ourselves extinct." Vextar watched the historical display with growing understanding and horror. "When we finally reached the stars and encountered the Galactic Federation, we made a choice," Parker continued. "We could have conquered half the galaxy within a few decades. Instead, we decided to try something different. We chose to be farmers and merchants and engineers. We chose to build rather than destroy." The Admiral's expression grew stern. "But we never forgot who we were. We just hoped we'd never have to remember." Vextar realized he was looking at a species that had voluntarily limited its own power for the good of galactic civilization. The Zephyrian Empire had attacked what they believed were defenseless farmers, only to discover they had awakened sleeping warriors whose military capabilities exceeded their own. "What are your terms for peace?" Vextar asked. Admiral Parker's terms were unlike anything in galactic military history. There would be no conquest of Zephyrian territory, no enslavement of their population, no demands for tribute or resources. Instead, humanity demanded guarantees that no Federation member species would ever again be targeted for unprovoked attack. "We will establish monitoring stations throughout the galaxy," Parker explained. "Any species that attempts to wage aggressive war against peaceful civilizations will face the same response you have experienced." "You're making yourselves the galaxy's police force." "We're making ourselves the galaxy's protectors," Parker corrected. "There's a difference." The treaty was signed 3 weeks after the first Zephyrian attack on New Prosperity. The Galactic Federation was restructured with new protections for peaceful species and new consequences for aggressive expansion. Humanity took its place not as conquerors, but as guardians of a peace they had helped to create. Elena Rodriguez returned to her role as a cargo ship captain, but now everyone in the galaxy knew what her ship really was. The Peaceful Dawn carried goods between worlds as before, but its hidden weapons and military capabilities were no longer secret. The galaxy had learned that humans chose peace not from weakness, but from strength. They had discovered that the quiet farmers and merchants who fixed their equipment and grew their food were actually the descendants of history's most successful warriors. And perhaps most importantly, they had learned that humanity's greatest strength was not their military might, but their choice to use that might only in defense of those who could not defend themselves.